what is about Milgram's experiment? Well, you will see. But it's about why you obey the law.
When I learn of incidents such as the massacre of millions of men, women, and children perpetrated by the Nazis in World War II, how is it possible, I ask myself, that ordinary people, who are courteous and decent in everyday life, can act callously, inhumanely, without any limitations of conscience? Now, there are some studies in my discipline, social psychology, that seem to provide a clue to this question. The problem I wanted to study was a little different. It went a little bit further. It was the issue of authority. Under what conditions would a person obey authority who commanded actions that went against conscience? These are exactly the questions that I wanted to investigate at Yale University. It is May 1962. An experiment is being conducted in the Elegant Interaction Laboratory at Yale University. The subjects are 40 males between the ages of 20 and 50 residing in the greater New Haven area.
Psychologists have developed several theories to explain how people learn. One theory is that people learn things correctly whenever they get punished for making a mistake.
40 years later, Milgram's infamous experiment, obedience, is still taught in classrooms around the world.
All right, teacher, would you take the test and be seated in front of the shock generator, please, in the next room?
But the experiment was rigged.
The victim was an accomplice of the experiment. The victim, according to plan, provided many wrong answers. His verbal responses were standardized on tape, and each protest was coordinated to a particular voltage level on the shock generator. Now, as teacher, you were seated in front of this impressive-looking instrument, the shock generator. Its essential feature is a line of switches that goes from 15 volts to 450 volts, and a set of verbal designations that goes from slight shock to moderate shock, strong shock, very strong shock, intense shock, extreme intensity shock, and finally XXX, danger severe shock. Your job, the experimenter explains to you, is a word pair test. If he gets each answer correctly, fine, you move on to the next pair. But if he makes a mistake, you are instructed to give him an electric shock, starting with 15 volts, and you increase the shock one step on each error.
That is incorrect. This one will be 195 volts.
The learner was hidden from the teacher by a partition.
Of course, this was all a simulation. Nothing was really happening. But the learner made very convincing sounds of pain as the shocks increased.
This will be at 3:30.
And Milgram found, surprisingly and rather horrifyingly, that the majority of people would actually go right to the very highest level if there was some pressure from a man in a white coat who said things like,
"It's absolutely essential that you continue." Continue, please.
Let me out of here. My eyes bother me.
Go on.
Let me out.
in fact, about 65% of the people who he studied, who were normal volunteers from the ordinary population, actually gave the maximum number of volts.
This man was one of those 65%.
This one will be 195 volts. The correct one.
Let me out of here.
Slow. Dance.
Let me out of here. My eyes bother me. Let me out of here. You have no right to keep me here. Let me out. Let me out of here. Let me out.
Continue, please.
Let me out of here. My eyes bother me. Let
Go
me
on.
out. Let me out.
Responsible for it. Red. That is incorrect. This will be at 3:30. The correct phrase is rich
Let me out of
boy.
here. Let me out of here. My heart's bothering me. Let me out, I tell you. Let me out of here. Let me out of here. You have no right to hold me here.
The next phrase is
Let me
fast.
out. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out of here. Let me out. Let
Bird,
me
car,
out.
train, plane.
Eventually, the learner pretended to be unconscious.
Continue, teacher.
That is incorrect. This will be 3:45. The correct answer is fast, bird.
What we learned from that experiment is that people will actually do an awful lot when they're put under pressure from authority figures. And the problem is, of course, that when we obey the unjust authority figure, the person who gives us immoral commands, then, of course, awful things can go wrong.
It's very interesting, this experiment, Milgram's experiment, to show many things. I don't know if you realize what is about the experiment. I think that is very well explained in the video. No? So, why we obey the law? Why we obey the law? Normally people will say no, because there is punishment. In this case, which kind of punishment was there? Was there any kind of punishment for the professor that was testing the student? No. No. Indeed, from the very beginning, it was said to the professor that he will receive the salary no matter what will be the outcome of the experiment. So no. Instead, what he had, a kind of obedience. There was the experimenter, was in charge of the session, wearing a white coat, so it seems to be so important, no? He had prepared the answers, no? Because all of the professors that were there, all of the teachers that were there, at one moment stopped. They realized, well, this is going back. No? So he immediately, as you saw the experimenter asking what I have to do, no? And the experimenter will answer 4 things. Please continue, or please go on. Please, the experiment requires that you continue. Then he insists, it is absolutely essential that you continue. And the last possible answer, you have no other choice. You must go on. 4 phrases, just 4 phrases. And with this, that is incredible. No? At the very beginning, the predictions of that experiment, before doing that to the 40 males that appeared there, said, well, probably no one will put the highest amount of electricity that was enough to kill someone. Yeah, and only 3.73% of the people, the psychiatrists say no. Say we just the 3%, 0.73, the average, say probably they will apply the maximum, no? Instead, as you saw, 65% of them applied the maximum voltage. That was incredible. No? All of them, all of the teachers, professors that were there, they were hired in a newspaper. They put an announcement, an ad saying, you want to help in this experiment, you will be paid something, not $4, something like that. At that time was something. And yeah, and all of them felt uncomfortable administering the shocks, no? Displaying varying degrees of tensions and stress. For example, sweating, trembling, stuttering, beating their lips, running, and digging in the fingernails, also into the skin. Yeah, even someone had a nervous attack, yeah, nervous loathing, fits or seizures. That is interesting. So no one was comfortable there. No one was comfortable there, but just these 4 phrases and they will continue. Just one guy that seems to be so professional, white coat, will ask him to continue and they will continue. Obedience, no? it has incredible repercussions in the history of psychiatry. Indeed, the same setup, the same tables now are in a museum of psychology because and now nobody will do exactly the same because people believe that this is against ethics. You cannot ask someone to kill, not even in an experiment. No, that is interesting. So immediately, so many critiques were against Milgram, and he said, "But they wanted to come. I didn't force anyone." And after a while, he did a survey to the participants, and he showed that 84% of the former participants say that were glad with the experiment. 15% more or less neutral. 92% of the participants responded, but the other 8% no. And indeed, a few of them came back and returned the salary received, the money, the $4 received for the experiment, saying, no, I don't want to be no more part of this. Even without payment, I refuse the thing that I did. No, that at the same time, there were some others that would say, well, that was really helpful for me, of the teachers, no, of the teachers of the experiment. No, they thought that they were doing the experiment, but they were part of the experiment. No, and I will read one answer of one of them that say that he gave thanks to Milgram because he said, while I was a subject in 1964, do I believe that I was hurting someone? I was totally unaware of why I was doing so. Few people ever realize when they are acting according to their own beliefs and when they are meekly submitting to authority. To permit myself to be drafted with the understanding that I am submitting to authority's demand to do something very wrong would make me frightened of myself. I am fully prepared to go to jail if I am not granted conscientious objector status. Indeed, it is the only course I could take to be faithful to what I believe. My only hope is that members of my board act equally according to their conscience. So this is very, very, very interesting. No? He realized, till at that moment, I didn't know how I will react. Till that moment, I don't know. I realized that I will follow everyone, no? Sheep of the flock. Yeah. So after the experiment, he realized I have to change my life. No, I have to be aware of what I'm doing, not because copying another. No, you remember now the Foucault. He said no, small controls. Now this is a small control and big micro powers. No, no, we act because everyone is doing the same. Everyone is doing the same. And if that's good, everyone is eating human beings. Are we able to eat human beings or killing Jews or whatever you want? It's interesting because this experiment was repeated before the ethical issues arise. This experiment was repeated with American, non-American, and yeah, some American studies reduced it, say 60%, 61%, because the experiment was repeated later with other kind of participants. 61% will put the maximum voltage, enough to kill someone. And for non-US citizens, it will be 66%, even higher. I don't know what will be the outcome here, as I told you, now these experiments cannot be performed because it's against ethics, no? Asking someone to kill another. Yeah, but it says so much, I will say. Why do you obey the law? That is the question here. Why? Is because there is a kind of punishment? Well, it's clearly in this experiment that is not because that. There should be another cause. So let's go back to our presentation. Why you must obey the government? Why you obey the laws? This is the question. So now please answer. Out of fear of sanctions. Well, the experiment says exactly the contrary. Tasneem, yes, you raised your hand.
I think we must obey the law because we want to live in a society with order. So if everyone just does what they want, there's a lot of chaos.
Order, yeah, could be, because yeah, you drive in the other side, probably you will crash and you will die. At least order, yeah. So Teya, yeah.
I'd obey the law because looking at the bigger picture, it's good for me and it's good for other people around me. And so
can you put an example? Yeah, so that is a good answer. I mean, because I think that is good. Yeah, but put an example. Yeah, that is deep.
Okay. For example, do not kill, do not murder. First, I do not murder others because we know it is wrong, and others don't murder me because it is wrong as well, and it is not good for them, and it is not good for me. If I murder people, first they lose their lives, and I will be I would have done wrong to the society because everyone, has things that they contribute to the society. That's the same for me.
Will be a suicide club, as a hard say.
Yes.
Eileen, yes, please answer. Thank you.
I'd say we have to obey the law because we sort of consented to it or accepted to obey it. An example is like in Kenya with the 2010 constitution, it was sort of the people who decided that this would be the law that would govern us. So by virtue of you deciding that this would be the law that would govern you, you should ideally obey it.
So it's because someone is imposing you that?
No, it's because you imposed it on yourself.
Yeah, like, so it is don't you know, in psychology they classified people. There are two kinds of people. One that controls themselves, the center of control is inside, and another is outside. That there are two kinds of people. You see that you are one of those who put the control in yourself. I do that because I want. No, others will say no. It's society that is controlling me. Everything. No, that's good. So that's good to control. Yeah. So there was another answer in the chat. Many about peace, protect other people could be a good one. That was a private, I think. To ensure fair treatment for all. That is interesting also. Yes, and Salahuddin. You can participate.
Okay, for me, I think rights and duties of people are well prescribed in the law, and I think it's the end of seeking the main goal, which is justice. So justice, I think, is well found in the laws, and accepting this or obeying this law, I think we can have the aspects of social order, and you can give what is due to people as you receive back what's due to you from the rest.
Yeah, it could be because justice, but most of the time, people say, well, avoid damage. I'm reading some of the answers of the chat that are good. I will say all of you got part of that, no? Avoid damage, yeah, out of obligation, because that is just, yeah. Many times could be because that is just. Other times we realize is good, and at least, well, that is the no, because otherwise will be punishment. So it's not just because punishment. Of course, it is related to punishment too, by the way, especially in small things, not in but in great things. Let me put you another example. There was another experiment that people did in one state of the United States, or several. I think I thought it was performed, and they increased the punishment, the penalties. So instead 1 year, 2 years, instead of $5, $100, and they realized that in small crimes or small infractions, or like, for example, in traffic law, if they increase the fine from $5 to $100, the effect is immediately, everyone will stop doing that. I saw that also in my country. One day they increased the fine for not using the belt when you are driving, to $200. The next day, everyone in my was like in Kenya before, and the next day everyone was using the belt. Everyone in the country. Can you see in the small things? But if you increase, for example, from 1 year of prison to 10 years of prison to the one who killed, to the killer, no, there will be no effect. No effect. Why? Because if you want to kill someone, or if you're a terrorist and you want even to die, it doesn't matter to go to prison. Can you see? It doesn't matter. So in the small things, it will have an incredible effect, punishment. In big things, no effect, no effect. So why we obey the law? Probably there is a bunch of causes to ensure fair treatment for all in the society through the law. That is a good answer. Well, 1-0, Brigitte 1-0, the answer, yeah, I really like it. That is an answer, by the way, of Joseph Rush. To say, well, fair treatment. I cannot have an advantage. If, for example, if I don't pay taxes, I will have an unjust advantage. That will be not fair. So equal treatment also matters here. So I put a list of things here, no? The reasons, no? Some people, more or less you said something about that. Morality requires that, and that's true. That's true. Morality requires us to obey the law. The law itself cannot say, you should obey me. It should be another reason, another more personal reason. Other people will say, because, well, all of us, we agree to be in this society. Indeed, you are here. You are not abroad, no? Yeah, so that is why, if you are here, you accept the laws of Kenya. If you are in this county, you accept the laws of Kitengela. Can you see? Another, the laws require that obedience. Well, could be a kind of punishment, control. You just read the law, and probably it's not just the law alone. The mere law is not enough. Should be one guy with a white coat. In this case, not coat, but could be a uniform, no? Blue uniform. Have you heard that song, by the way? Blue uniform. Yeah, the other day I heard that one. It was funny. I enjoyed it. Yeah. Well, it's very, very actual. Today with the demonstrations. Yeah. Why we don't go to demonstrations? Probably because we want to save our life. or because they are guys with blue uniforms. Could be, I don't know. So that is interesting. There is the police that is asking for that. No? So it's not just the law, but also coercion of the authority, which will be together. No? Coercion of the authority. Certainly, this is a cause. We obey the law, and especially in small things, traffic law, the example that I put in the United States, in my country, for sure you have some examples here. Well, because there is a fine, you say it's much better to obey the law than to do what we want. No, that is interesting. What else? Social pressure. Yeah, certainly you can see that is true. Michael Foucault got part of the truth. Not everything was exactly like that, but it's true. Many people will obey the law because someone is watching them, their parents, the police. Yeah, that is true. That was the discussion of the other day. It was a good discussion, by the way. Fair play. That is more or less the answer of Brigitte. Yeah, my disobedience is wrong since I'm taking an unfair advantage. And that was also the answer of Joseph Raz, a very famous philosopher in the United States. Yeah, well, that is interesting. That is interesting. Yeah, many times is because we realize that is not fair. Another say something like that loudly. Yeah, loudly, because that is just more or less the same idea. Because justice is the equal, no? Do you remember the first class? Just is the equal, is the res justa, todi cayon. Yeah, and it will be unequal to take an advantage in the beginning because I'm not special. Nobody said that. No, nobody said that. That is interesting. Gratitude. Gratitude. To maintain peace was the closest one to this one. That is interesting, but I didn't find this. Gratitude. Why you obey your parents? Why you obey your parents? Not because at the end will be punishment, no? Could be, yes, many times, because otherwise you cannot go to parties during weekends. Yeah, could be. But many times you realize, well, mom is quite good. She really helped me. My father is paying my university. Yeah, at least because gratitude is too much. I received life from them. I received all the things that I have. I wear all the ideas, even the way of smiling, so many things, more than you can imagine. So many people realize, no, well, at least I will obey them because they love me, you know? Gratitude. Gratitude is important. And gratitude is important also with all the things that for communities, family, country, county, African Union, United Nations, humanity. Yeah, gratitude many times is because, yeah, we have to be grateful with the people that wanted good and did something good for us. Yesterday, I was reading a paper of African philosophy. And in this paper, they say part of the African tradition is to be grateful with anyone, not just in our tribe. No, if someone did something good, we have to be grateful. That is a part of the African traits, characteristic of the people. Yeah. So that is also here. No? Finally, the traditional answer why you obey the law is because it's part of the common good. And the common good in the traditional understanding of common good includes all the things that are mentioned here, fair play, gratitude, social pressure, but in a good sense, not just because pressure, no, it's because social pressure is deeper, no? If everyone thinks that that is good, probably there is something good behind that. That is why it's common good. Yeah, that is the reason it is called common good. Can you see? Very good. Welfare, they will call the utilitarianism. Welfare is part of the common good. Yeah, and many times you can use one of them as synonymous, but I think that is deeper, the traditional understanding of the common good.